Hi everybody, we're having too much fun today. Summer is around the corner and we're starting to get a little Twitter-baited like the birds outside our window. Welcome everybody, my name is Adrienne and you've made it to another BERNINA Facebook Live. I'm going to get Sarah maybe to check her phone, make sure that we are coming up on people's feeds. I hope everybody is staying healthy, doing well, and adjusting to these new and interesting times that we're in. I really want to thank everybody for all of the submissions you've been doing on our Facebook Live contest for the Big Book of Feet, and congratulations to Lori and the other winners. I was really interested in the feedback this week. We asked about what technique would you like to learn, and a lot of people wanted to learn heirloom techniques, haute couture techniques, all kinds of really interesting things. Of course, people really wanted to learn quilting and ruler work and embroidery as well, but it made me start to think about the great quality finishes we can do on our garments and home deck and quilting and projects, and kind of taking that moment to slow down and make the details really, really beautiful. So that's kind of what we're focusing on today, how we can add some extra detail, extra care, extra love to our projects. And the way we're going to do that is to introduce some texture with Pintucks, or focus on really beautiful quality buttonholes, because I know a lot of us are afraid of buttonholes. They'd rather put in a zipper or Velcro than tackle a buttonhole, and it might be a good time to tackle those buttonholes. So welcome everybody, that's the topic today, Pintucks and buttonholes. So I hope everybody's here. Let me show you what we're working on. I'll get Sarah to zoom in on the machine and I'll check that we're connected. So we're working on Pintucks today and buttonholes. Maybe Sarah can see those while I double check. Hope everyone's well. Let's see who's connected today. Oh, you know who's here? Let's see who's here. Oh, Kathy, Sandy, and Teresa's here, and Debbie, Ellen, Linda. Oh, it's nice to see you, Linda. And Adrienne from Kingston. I was just recently in Kingston last year this time. It's such a beautiful city. All right, well, welcome everybody. We're going to work on buttonholes. I've just got a little sample of beautiful buttonholes here. So we're going to do those a little later in the show. We're going to start with the beautiful pintuck. What the heck is a pintuck anyway? Well, a pintuck is just a gathered or folded bit of fabric. We use a twin needle in pintucks to pull the fabric together to create a raised ridge of fabric. And hopefully you can see that here. I've used some pink thread to help kind of pull out the pintuck for you. And in BERNINA land, we have 4 or 5 pintucking feet, and I wanted to show you how to decide which foot to use. So let's go back to the thing I talked about with the needle. We use a twin needle for pintucks. Generally, there's another way to make pintucks. You can use you can just fold the fabric over, iron it, and just sew close to the edge. That would make a pintuck too, but a traditional pintuck is kind of done in this way. And you can see your needle, your twin needle has some numbers at the top. This one, it's very hard to see, but this one says 71.6, which means that the needles are 70 is the size, and 1.6, they're 1.6 millimeters apart. And this is a universal needle. And BERNINA brand, we have a lot of BERNINA needles. Here's another one. It's 90, so it's a much bigger one, and 3 millimeters apart. I like to use this one for quilting. And then this one is 90 and 4 millimeters apart, and this is much nicer for making twin needle hems. You could do a jeans with this. You could hem a skirt with this. That would be really great. There's even ones that are designed for jeans. So this one is designed for jeans. It's much thicker. It's 100 weight and it's 4 millimeters apart. And of course, if you are working with stretch material, you can get them in stretch format too. Here's a couple different sizes in stretch. So if you were making a t-shirt or yoga pants and you wanted to finish the bottom of yoga pants with something like that, you get a stretch needle. It won't poke holes in your fabric, and nobody likes a hole in their leggings. That's not a great look. And even there are specialty needles as well. So this is, if you were using a metallic thread, you could use a twin metallic needle. I've never tried using metallic thread in a twin needle. I'll try that. Today I chose to use just an average size. This is an 80 needle, 2.5 millimeters apart. So then how do you know which foot you should use, which pin tuck foot? And there's a really easy trick, and you just line up your pin tuck foot, I've got number 30 here, with your needle. I'm going to take this away so you can see. And if it fits nicely in the groove, that's a good needle. So this is not a great fit. This is way too big a groove for this. So we're going to eliminate that one. I'm going to try number 31. Let's see. This one was okay. I tested this one. It fit okay, but it just didn't pull the pin tuck tight enough for me. Here's number 32. And this is a much neater fit. I like this one, so I'm going to stick with 32. And you can see number 33. See how tiny those pin tucks are? This would be great for that 2 or 1.6 wide pin tuck. It doesn't fit. I can't get this one to work. So that's how you would pick your pin tucking foot to match your needle. I hope that helps you. So I've set up the machine for twin needle sewing. I put 2 different colors of thread because I like that. And I hope everybody knows how to thread for twin needle. All you need to remember is to keep the threads, they go in the same thread path except for up at the tension disc. You just try to put it on either side of the tension disc, and no using the needle threader. No needle threader with the twin needle, because it just won't be in the right position. Hey Beth, hey Sonia, hey Linda. Oh, Linda's here, Lori, and Kathy made it from Pennsylvania. Awesome. All right. So we're doing twin needle quilting today, or twin needle pin tucks today. So I've got my threads ready. I've put in just a regular bobbin weight thread to do this today. And I actually did something a little different. I am going to take this out so you don't have to move, Sarah. I am using the yellow bobbin case today because it'll add more tension and it'll pull those top threads way to the back and make for an even more perky pin tuck. So I was experimenting with that today and I really liked the way it looked with the yellow bobbin case. All right, so let me show you how this works. You're just going to use a straight stitch. Sorry about that, Sarah. And you just sew carefully. I'm going to put the needle down. My threads are in the way. I just don't like that. It's so funny to sew from the side, Sarah. It's all like awkward. If I can make anything look awkward, I sure do. All right, let's see what it looks like. Yeah, I like it. So you can see that lovely pin tuck. It's really, you can see that big shadow there. It's really pulled that flat fabric into a nice ridge. It's very even. That's why I love using these pin tuck feet. They make me look like exactly like I know what I'm doing. And on the back, you're going to get kind of like a little ladder or zigzag look because that one bobbin thread is working to catch both of the needle threads. So it kind of has to catch both of them and you get a little bit of a sort of zipper or zigzag look on the back. Okay, so then when you go to make your next pin tuck, you get to decide on the spacing of the pin tucks. You can put your pin tuck foot to the edge here and make a nice wide spacing. You can choose any of the locations. I'm going to go right next to the middle position and see what that looks like. Pull my threads to the back. All right, here we go. Yes. And now that I've made that first pin tuck, the second pin tuck is just going to go straight along. I barely have to think about what I'm doing, which is good because I can barely think about what I'm doing. Cool. Oh my gosh, I just love this effect. Okay, I'm going to do one more row so you can see how you can gather them really close together. Has anybody tried doing a pin tuck before? I wonder. You guys can write in the comments. Let me know if you've done a pin tuck before, what you like to put them on. It's very traditional to put them on lingerie, children's clothing. It looks great on home deck. The yoke of a blouse, it looks amazing on. And you can see how much it's gathering up the fabric. If you do want to do this technique on a pattern piece, you need to cut your fabric very large first, do your pin tucking, and then actually cut the pattern piece out. Does that make sense? Sometimes it don't make sense. I just love the way this gathers up the fabric. So this is very traditional. You can see how it's starting to gather this. You see this a lot on the yoke of a girl's dress where you need more ease lower down in the dress. It's really cool. It's an interesting way to gather things. Okay, now I'm going to try just putting one in the edge. The fabric, running out of words again. The fabric is just right in that leftmost option. So I'm going to use that spacing this time. See what that looks like. It looks awesome. Okay, and Judy says she didn't see where to thread the, how to thread the twin needle. So Sarah, can you just go up to the top of the machine? So when you take your threads across, Judy, you just come across and behind this little pre-tensioner. And here is the tension guide, tension discs. And the tension discs actually kind of look like, and you want one on either side. On mine, you can see there's a little flange there. So I put I put the pink on one side and I put the red on the other. So now if Sarah can come back down to my hands, I'll show you what, imagine the tension discs are my fingers. Sarah, there. Okay, those are my fingers, right? And the flange that I was pointing to, Judy, is the square needle box that I have, because I'm just using stuff that I have, Judy. You would want one thread to go right on one side of the needle box and the other thread to go on the other side. And just try doing that for twin needle. Always test on a scrap piece of fabric after you've threaded your twin needle, just to make sure. And I'm using my thread cutter today with my twin needle. If I was using a wider one, I wouldn't use it because I would be scared that my cutter might touch the needles. And I'm going to show you the next trick, and I don't use my cutter then. Okay, so we made some amazing and beautiful pin tucks. These don't have anything inside the pin tuck to support them. So the next step is, if you wanted, you could make a corded pin tuck. I'm going to get closer because I'm excited. So a corded pin tuck is just what it sounds like. You run a little bit of cord, white cording I'm going to use today, and it's over here. This is a number 3 pearl cotton. It's just a thin cotton, and it'll add support to these pin tucks. Sometimes you want the pin tucks to not have cording in them. You might want to iron these or press these to one side to get a particular effect, and that would be easier to do if there's no fabric or thread in there. But sometimes you might want a stiffer pin tuck, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So in order to show you, I'm just going to take the table off. It makes it easier. And I'm going to take the foot off. Because what we want to do is run a cord right in between those twin needles. And actually on your needle plate, you'll see there's a hole already built in just for it. Awesome. So what we're going to do is take advantage of that hole. I'm going to take off the needle plate. I know this seems like a little bit of work, but slow sewing is worth it. Trust me. And what we want to do is feed the cord up here. Sarah, do you see that? So I'm feeding I opened the bobbin door and I'm feeding the cord up just in front of the bobbin. Oh, I did it the first time and now I can't do it. That's funny. Ha! There it is. So see that? And then I'm going to feed it through the needle plate. That's why I took the needle plate off. It's just easier to do this way. I'd never be able to get it if it was on the sewing machine. And then all you do is pop it back on the sewing machine. Well, now you're going to be upset with me because how can you possibly sew with this cord here and the door open? But actually, maybe Sarah can see this. In the door, there's actually a divot here to allow for this cord to pass through. So I can close the door and this is going to move freely here. Pretty freely. There we go. I'm going to test it till I got it right where I want it. There it is. There it is. Test that it's free. And you can just let the cord rest here, or I'm going to get Sarah to show you the junk under the table in a second here. I'm looking for the arm. Here we go. You can use your freehand system. Can you see that, Sarah? Might need to zoom out. You can use your freehand system to manage your cord. You put the cord on the freehand system, and then it actually connects to the machine down here. Oh, look at that. I get to practice again. So let me show you again how to do it. You take off the needle plate. You open the door. You feed it through the bottom. Poor Sarah's having to keep up with me today. She's like, I only make scale. I don't get paid enough. Put it through the needle plate. I love practicing. It's great. And then, perfect. Make sure the door is closed and it will feed nicely. Oh, it feeds great. I'm going to put it on my freehand system. Ready, Sarah? And I'm going to plug it into the machine. Done. That's it. My freehand system isn't sitting right. Okay. So for ease of use, I'm going to put the table back on. And we're just going to go back close up, Sarah. That's it. And I'm putting my foot back on. All right, we're doing corded Pintucks. Oh, I grabbed the wrong foot. Didn't I? Yeah, I put on 31. I'm going to use 32 like I was before. Cool. Awesome. There's a little slit in the foot there. I can slide the threads through. So do you see my setup now? I've got the cord coming up the bottom, and I've got the 2 needle threads, and I've just pushed it all to the back. Sonia says she didn't know what the hole was for. Yeah, Sonia, it took me 2 years to figure it out too. So glad that I'm not alone. That's great. All right, so I'm going to put this Pintuck here. We'll do the same thing. And get those threads out of the way, and here we go. Yeah, isn't it great that that hole is already built into the plate, so you're ready to rock and roll. Here we go. And you can see the cord is feeding. I'm just going to pull some out of the way because I got my scissors here. The cord is feeding through as we sew. I'm just letting the foot ride along this Pintuck. I don't have to drive the bus at all. It's going to go right down that valley. Corded Pintucks look really tough, but honestly, they're just as easy as a regular Pintuck. Are you excited to see it yet? I'm excited. Here we go. Okay. Like I said, I'm not going to use the thread cutter. I just don't want the thread cutter to cut that number 3 pearl cotton. So I'm just going to pull everything to the back and I'll cut everything. I know it looks complicated. It's not that bad. All right. So I don't know if Sarah, hopefully Sarah can see the difference here. So this was the first Pintuck without cording, and it's kind of easy to push it over. And this one is much firmer. I can't make as much of a dent in the one with the pearl cotton. And I'll flip over to the back, and they look exactly the same, but there's actually a cord in this one. Isn't that cool? So the size of your Pintuck is going to be a little bit bigger if your needle is a little bit wider. If you use a narrower twin needle, this is a 2.5. If you used a 2, you could probably squeeze that little cording in there. But if you went any narrower than 2, you're just not going to be able to get that little cord in there. If you had a really lightweight material, so this is quilting cotton, but you could, if this was a lightweight batiste, instead of using white thread underneath, I could have used a pink thread or a purple thread, and a little bit of that color would have sort of come through, and you get another great effect. So it's really awesome. And hey Karen, yeah, Dia is saying you could definitely use this technique in making corsets and costumes. Absolutely, especially those like heritage looking things. I'm thinking, Dia, that would be awesome. And Kathy asked, did you starch the fabric? I did not. I found I didn't need it. The needles are really sharp and they pierced the fabric. It didn't want to poke it down. But if you had a softer fabric, like a linen maybe, or a cotton lawn or a batiste, Kathy, it might be a great idea to pre-treat the cotton to make it a little bit stiffer. But I would test a piece to see how well it gathers. Is that cool? And that's really all you need to know on Pintucks. They're pretty, once you know how to do the setup, they're pretty easy. I hope that really helped you guys to learn how to set up the cording. And if you really don't like this setup, some people just think that's too much to manage with the setup with the cord coming through the hole. I'm going to show you one other trick you could do. On the 8 series machines, although we have the top of the line machines on 8 series, we don't have the hole in the right spot in our machines. And not only that, we can't allow for the cord to be in the bobbin area. It just won't work on an 8 series. It'll get caught up in the robotics of the machine. So instead on the 8 series, we get this little adapter. I'm going to plop it on here. Maybe Sarah can see it. This little adapter that holds the cording exactly in the right place. See how it's aiming, it's ending up in the right place. And all of our machines have those 2 little holes there on the side. So you could add this little adapter, even if you didn't have an 8 series, you could add that in. It has a little screw. And you can add that, and that would hold your thread in the exact right place. I'll show you. You would just use one of those flossers. It comes with a flosser. And you would just put your thread there. And now when I sew, it's in exactly the right place. So on Gladys, this is the method that I use. But on Hamish, I can use the under the hood technique, if that makes sense to you. Awesome. That's great. I'm glad you're going to try it, Kathy. That's terrific. So yeah, hi, Anne. It's nice to see you, Anne. We just talked about Pintucks. We did some Pintucks, corded ones and non-corded ones. We talked about what needle size you can use, how to match the needle size to the foot. I think we know everything there is to know about Pintucks. If you find your fabric isn't gathering enough, you could loosen the tension on the top. Let's see if that worked. I used the yellow bobbin case to add more tension on the back to really pull those top threads to the back and get a really nice standing up Pintuck. So Pintucks, give them a try. They look amazing on tank tops. Oh, they look great on pants too. I had a pair of pants with Pintucks, and it was really funny because eventually I put on weight and they were really tight, and I got the nice marks of the Pintucks in my thighs every day. So needless to say, I don't have those pants anymore, but they were one of my favorites. So that's Pintucks. And we were also going to talk about buttonholes today because we had a lot of people requesting buttonholes. So I'm going to do a quick switch here. Let's take out the twin needle, and I'm going to grab my regular needle, and I'm going to cut my thread and pull it through the right way. Okay, so I cut my thread at the top, and I'm just going to remove the purple thread. I don't need it anymore. Perfect. So most of our Berninas come with, and Burnettes, and most sewing machines come with a wide variety of buttonholes. Buttonholes that are appropriate for lightweight materials, jackets. What else do we use buttonholes on? I use them on crafts all the time, bags, all kinds of things. So yeah, buttonholes. I want to show you some easy ways to measure for buttonholes. And what's really funny, Sarah, is I neglected to grab a button. They're all put away. It's okay. We'll approximate. Okay, buttonhole foot. Da, 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 da. Most of us have a buttonhole foot that looks like that, the 3A. Some of us have a buttonhole foot that looks like this, the number 3C. There are a couple other different buttonholes, but these are buttonhole feet, but these are the main ones. So let's work with the automatic buttonhole first. It has a nice slider here with a red slider marker on the side. And this moves up and down. And there's actually a scale on here in millimeters. It starts from 0 and it goes to 30, but the largest buttonhole you can make is 29 millimeters. Okay, so let's pretend you and I opened a package of buttons, a whole package of buttons. That would be cute. And it said on the package that it was a 20 millimeter button. What I could do is just move that slider so that the point is at 2 centimeters, 20 millimeters, right? We know the metric system here. It's all good. All right, so now I'm going to attach it to the machine because we're making a buttonhole for our hypothetical 20 millimeter button. Yes. All right. So when you're doing buttonholes, I highly, 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 highly recommend you use fabric. I'm just saying that because I've lost my fabric. Sure, Linda, I'll speak louder. All right, so I've got my fabric and I've put in some interfacing because usually a buttonhole is stabilized somehow with either batting or sew-in interfacing or stabilizer, something like that. So today I'm using just embroidery tearaway stabilizer. All right, so we're ready to make our buttonhole. On the screen there, I just selected the buttonhole folder and we're just going to use the first buttonhole. And on the screen there's some interesting information. I'm going to clear it so it's back to regular. Do you see how it says recorded there? It's going to record this buttonhole, and if we love it, it's now in the memory until we turn the machine off or adjust it. And now I can make 17 exact buttonholes all the way down my pinafore dress or whatever it is. So this recording feature is really amazing. You'll also see that the back, the instant back button is flashing. And that's just telling me that I need to touch the reverse button to tell the machine how long the buttonhole should be. That's all we need to know. Great. We're going to leave these regular settings and go back down to the sewing machine. So I've got my buttonhole foot on. Sarah's there, right? Hey Gwen, we're doing buttonholes. Oh yeah, Dia's saying she saw buttonholes to weave a ribbon through in a quilt. That's awesome, yeah. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the machine to go forward until the little red dot that is on the foot matches the little red dot at the 20 millimeters that we chose. And then I'll stop. Here we go. Okay, I think I can decide that that's even. That's great. I'm going to press reverse. And it's going to do the bar tack and the rest of the buttonhole for me. I'll just sit and watch and think how amazing I am. Here we go. All right. Look at that, a perfectly formed buttonhole. And because I hit record there, they'll all be exactly the same as I go down. But let's change this buttonhole a little bit. Maybe we didn't like how it looked exactly. Maybe I would like the beads to be a little bit bigger. So on a buttonhole, we call these the beads, and we call these the bar tacks, right? And you notice when it's sewed out, it sewed this bead down from front going forward. Then the machine moved back and it did the other one going forward as well. On some machines, it will do this bead forward and it'll do this bead backwards. But on Bernina's, we always do them forward so that they look super duper even. An uneven buttonhole is not really a super attractive buttonhole. So that's why you'll find on Bernina's they do it in that manner. So we're going to go back to the screen and we're going to alter this buttonhole. So let's make the buttonhole wider. So I'm just going to use this. I'm going to do it on screen because it's easier. There we go. And I can just go, see how it's getting wider and wider and wider on the screen? That's so cool. That's great. I love it. But now that I've made that so wide, I feel like the slit is kind of tiny and maybe I have a thicker button and I need a bit of a thicker opening in the middle. I can fix that too. Get ready. Get excited, Kathy. This is happening. You go into the information button, the I, and you see this button right here? It's showing the width of the slit. I'm going to open that. And I'm going to adjust it, and you'll see on the screen as I adjust, the opening is going to change. Watch that. Oh, see how it can go quite wide. And that will accommodate for a thicker button, or if you like a different look. So I'm going to close this up. I'm going to go back to 1. The factory setting was 0.6, but I want it to be 1. Anytime you make a change to the stitch, remember, it's going to show yellow. If I want to go back to the factory setting, I just press the yellow bounded box and it goes back to the factory setting. It's really great when I get myself confused and I can't remember the starting point. But we're going to try 1. All right, so I'm going to go back to the machine. We're going to see how this works. This time I'm not going to use my foot pedal. I'm just going to let the machine stitch the whole thing out by using the stop start button because I don't have to measure it. It's already been measured. Now see how different those buttonholes look? Same buttonhole program, but we changed the thickness of the bead and we changed the thickness of the opening itself. Did you know you could do that? Pretty cool, right? Yeah, it's awesome. So you can customize your buttons however you want. So that's one way you can measure your buttonhole and one way you can adjust. But if you see on the screen, I actually did this wrong. It says that it's only a 16 millimeter button. So let's go back into I and see if I can correct that. So I'm going to go back into I. Here's the length. I'm going to go into length. And I can just change it on screen here. See how it's going to make, if I have a 20 millimeter button, it's going to make a 22 millimeter buttonhole. Right? That's how it measures that. So if my package button said 20 millimeters, that's the size buttonhole I should be making. Another way you can measure this is actually this circle on the screen. You could take your button and put it on the screen and measure it that way. So I'm going to use this spool of thread because I dropped my buttons. I can use a bobbin. Let's use a bobbin. It's easy to see. So I'm going to use this bobbin to pretend it's a button, and you would place it over the circle and just adjust until the circle goes all the way around your button. And that's how big a buttonhole you should make. Has anybody tried that before? I just love using this feature. I use it all the time because I use random buttons and I don't know what size they are and I don't have the patience to measure it. So I just measure it on screen and I just used this measuring device to do it, and it comes out perfect every time. And that's how easy it is to measure a button. Cool. I'm so glad that Debbie is going to try that out, and Kathy learned some new things, and Janice, you're late again? My goodness, you must have been making too many masks today. I'll catch up with you later. So that's how you can adjust the buttonhole size, either using on the screen by just picking a number, by using the measuring device, or by using on the foot, the little measuring device on the foot. I find the one on the foot is great if you've marked on your fabric, but not so accurate otherwise. All right, cool. Let's pick another buttonhole. Let's pretend we are doing a buttonhole on a jacket. And do you see the screen still, Sarah? Great. You have a lot of buttonholes here that you can choose from. And did you know, if you want to see more of them, you can just touch that arrow and it will pop out and you can see them all at once. So much easier for me. Okay. And then you can use Adrienne's favorite button, the black question mark, to tell you what these buttonholes do. Now, of course, you could open your manual, but I rarely do that. So, yeah, you could just press the question mark. Now the help is activated, and you just touch a buttonhole that you're interested in. So maybe we're interested in making a keyhole button. Yeah, maybe we'll make a keyhole buttonhole. And it says it's appropriate for woven fabrics, heavyweight, jackets, coats, trousers, leisure wear. I nailed it. I got it. We got the right one for our coat. Fantastic. So we're going to use number 56. All right. All right, so we're back to the screen. 56 is there. And again, it's going to record, and we can make adjustments. Maybe the stitches are not close enough together. Maybe because the jacket fabric is tweedy and I don't want to see the tweed coming through. I can just adjust the stitch length to make it smaller. And now the stitches are closer and closer and closer together. You can see that, right? Okay, so let's see what that buttonhole looks like. I'm going to go back to the sewing machine. Here we go. Everybody's so glad that Sarah's back today, I noticed, because I make her work so hard. To the screen, to this machine. She's doing great. Here we go. I'm not going to use this measuring device. I'm just going to hit reverse when I am ready. I forgot to hit reverse. Cool. See, yeah, that one looks great. That's just my loose thread. Sorry about that. That looks amazing too. Yep. So that would be great on jeans or a jacket, something with a lot of pressure here, or you need a more of an area to hold the shank of the button. That would be really great. Something like that. Another way you can reinforce a buttonhole is to make a corded button. So let's try making that. I'm going to go back to the regular button hole. I'm just going back to 51. Don't worry about it on the screen, Sarah. And I'm going to go back to using this cotton that we were using earlier for our Pintucks. So a corded buttonhole is really great on a buttonhole that is going to take lots of wear and tear. So like for my husband, that would be the second button from the bottom on his dress shirts, because he's doing a lot of teleconferencing, a lot of sitting right now, and there's a lot of wear and tear on those buttonholes. So the way that you set this up is you create your, I'm just going to use a regular buttonhole, so I'm just going to clear that. You put your 3A on and you just put the needle down. So let's see if I can do needle down. It doesn't want me to do needle down like that. I'm going to put the needle down. Okay, I just placed the needle in the fabric for the first stitch of the buttonhole, and then I take the thread around the right side of the machine, around the right side of the needle, and at the back of the machine there's a little hook, the back of the foot. Sarah can probably not see it, but it's back here, and then hook it on there, having a mental moment, and bring it back. This is all in your manual. This is all basic button techniques in the manual. So double check this. And now you can see I've wrapped the threads around the needle, but they're not hooked on the needle. They're hooked on the back of the foot. And now just raise those threads into the little notch there at the front of the foot. That'll just hold it in place. See how it's held in place? Cool. And then you put your foot down and you make your buttonhole. Here we go. Okay. See how easy that was? It took just an extra 20 seconds to put that cording in. That's it. Now I'm going to pull the cord. Oh, that side got stuck, so I'm going to pull on this side. There we go. Perfect. I'm going to pull the cord, and then you could take a needle and take it to the back of your fabric. Today I'm just going to cut them because it's a demo. Cool. So you get the idea. Do you see how, it might be hard for you to see, but it's actually it's raised. I can feel the difference. And this part of the buttonhole is incredibly strong. So this should be where the most tension is going to be. So the edge of the buttonhole where the button's going to rub right against it, because that'll provide extra protection for the buttonhole. Does that make sense? Everybody's happy? Good. Yes. Yes, Linda says there's lots of great stuff in the manual. Yeah, there is a lot of good technique in the manual. There's even more in the big book of feet, but the manual is chock-a-block of other stuff. So the other thing I wanted to show you is, what if you want to do a really long buttonhole? The longest buttonhole you can do on this machine is dictated by this foot, which is 27 or 29 millimeters. It's not a lot. But what if, like, this is a project that Laura Koya did, and can you see how big that buttonhole is? It's 3 inches or more. So she wouldn't be able to do that with this foot. And I know she did it on her BERNINA 790 because we had a call about it. What you need to do is use the manual buttonhole foot, the 3C. So let's grab that. I'll show you how to make a bigger buttonhole than you can with the automatic foot. I love the automatic foot because it does all 4 steps for me, but it would be nice to make a bigger buttonhole. So I'm going to use 3C. 3C is an optional foot. I think it came with my 830, but I can't remember now. It's been such a great while ago. All right, so let's move over to your clear spot. So we're going to go back to I, Sarah, one more time. You have to do this a little bit differently. I have to tell the machine that you're using a different foot. So I'm going to go into I, and instead of doing this recorded in millimeters, that means that the machine is just going to sense how far the fabric has moved and move it back when it goes on the back side. We're going to use recorded, we're going to use this one, which actually means adjust button length manually. That's what that button means. And again, my reverse button is flashing and the recorded button is on. So it will record this and do this multiple times if I'm making 27 of these beautiful fabric envelopes that Laura made for me. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to put this down. Here we go. I'm just going to clear it just in case. Okay. Oh, I got my thread caught. Okay, I made it much longer than what the machine can do with the automatic buttonhole foot. I'm going to go just a bit longer. Then I hit the reverse button. Now you do have to pay attention. Okay, my beads are even now, and I hit reverse one more time. And it did the button, it did the bar tack at the top for me. So see, we have a perfectly even buttonhole, even though I got my thread caught in there, because that's what I do in demonstrations. I make it look crazy. But see, this is much bigger than what this foot could accommodate. That foot could only go to there. And we went another almost an inch, 3/4 of an inch, another centimeter and a bit. So that's how you would do a much larger buttonhole, is you would use the manual buttonhole foot. Of course, you could still make the adjustments. You could still make the beads wider. You could still make the opening wider. You can make all those adjustments. You can cord that as well. You just have to run a cord around the foot a little bit differently. You put it at the front on this foot, but that's okay. So you can do all of those things with the manual version of the buttonhole foot. And I really hope that helps you with your buttonholes as you go. Of course, there's lots of other buttonholes on your machine. My 830, she's got about 12 or 15 buttonholes. This machine only has about 7 or 8, but it does include some beautiful buttonholes, including, can you see that? This really cool hand look one, this heirloom one. See how wide I did it? This one is great for stretch fabrics. Doesn't look as great on my woven fabric, but it's great on stretch fabrics. And I did a couple with cords in them. So lots of really fun things to do with buttonholes. They make our projects look beautiful. We can add gorgeous buttons to them. I know you probably have a great collection. I know Anne has an amazing collection at her store. Go buy some buttons. Does anybody have any questions about buttonholes? And I kept the high tension bobbin case, the yellow bobbin case, in the bottom for the buttonholes. It really does pull the thread to the back so you don't get the bobbin thread coming up. What we didn't cover today is embroidered buttonholes. I'll cover those another day. You can do buttonholes on your embroidery machine, and boy, do they look gorgeous front and back. And you can position them using pinpoint placement. Gosh, there's just so many things you can do with buttonholes. It makes me so happy. Now I have a new little piece of art to put on my shelf because I made a gorgeous buttonhole sampler. I hope you'll give it a try. That's great. Okay, Kathy hasn't used her buttonhole foot yet, so she'll do that. I'm going to show you a quick way to calibrate your buttonhole foot. Let me show you that real quick. If you have a 3A, the buttonhole foot is actually calibrated to your machine. So this is Hamish's buttonhole foot, but Gladys also has a buttonhole foot, and I try to keep the two separate because they are actually calibrated to each machine. When you go and get your machine serviced, you may want to recalibrate your foot, just depending on what happens. I'm going to take the thread out of the needle and put the foot down. And Sarah, can we go to the screen one more time? So the way you calibrate your foot is you just go to the settings and the gears and look for the sewing machine and select the tools. And we're looking for 3A. There it is. There it is. And it's just showing me the steps. Number 1, attach the 3A. Done. Number 2, press start. And then we just wait. Sarah, you can go back to the machine if you want. So all it did was move the fabric back and forth and record how far the fabric moved. And then on the screen, it just says, okay, now. It saw how far the fabric moved. You do have to do this with some fabric or it has nothing to read. So just double check. So that's it. You guys know everything you need to know about buttonholes. Oh, the only thing I didn't talk about was compensation plates. If you're using some fabric that's really, really thick and very hard to pass under the foot, you can use these compensation plates. I'll show you how to attach that. So the fabric would go in here. I'll show you that in a second. Hang on. The way that you attach this is, it has to come from the right. There's a notch here at the back that I'm trying to get in the notch on the foot. And I'm doing this from the wrong side, so it's feeling very strange. There we go, back end in first, and then just slide the front end on. And now I've got this really nice platform that's going to keep all the fabric flat. So for example, I have this wedge of denim, and it's very thick here, and most people would do their buttonholes this way, right, on the placket. But sometimes the design calls for the buttonhole to go sideways, so we'd have to actually load it in the machine this way. And you could do that, and now this will help to carry that fabric through. There's also, we have a height compensation tool for buttonholes as well. So if you're having trouble with buttonholes, reach out to your Bernina dealer. They certainly know how to get you to make perfect buttonholes. Check in your manual. There's so much information on buttonholes in the manual. Extremely helpful. And of course, if you need help, message us. Send us a message on Facebook, or talk to your dealer, or go on a Facebook group. We'd love to hear how you're doing with your buttonholes and what you like to make. So I want to wish everybody a wonderful day. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're having some fun, because this is getting a bit tiring now. So I hope you get some fun sewing in, maybe some slow sewing with lots of details. I really hope you get some time to do that. So Sarah and I are both saying thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Hope you learned something fun, and have a great week. We'll do this again next week. Bye.